Welcome back, Camden Catholic, or Honors, as I should say. So we're going to finish up the Reformation chunk real quick, and we'll kind of expand into it further when we talk about one of our next DBQs. Now, the last time we left off, we talked about the Tudors coming into power, and under Henry VIII, he split the church away from the Catholic Church due to the fact that he wasn't able to produce a... What's up, Mr. Wallace? Due to the fact that he wasn't able to produce a son, right? So he actually is going to go through 6 different marriages. 2 of them died. 8.
Henry VIII?
Yeah, Henry VIII. Yeah. Mr. Wallace knows, see? Anyway, now, he's going to go through 6 different marriages. And remember, the system goes survived, beheaded, died, survived, beheaded, survived. All right? Now, anyway... so 2 of them are going to be put to death. We know that Anne Boleyn was the first one. And then, of course, Mary was exiled into a place called Essex, where she actually grew up away from her father, created a lot of resentment, right? Now, was there ever a male heir under Henry VIII? Boom! I heard you over there, Ed Guerra. Good stuff. All right, anyway, now, very good job. Yes, he had a son, son Edward, right? And now Edward is going to be Edward the 15th. I think he's, no, not Edward the 15th. I think it's Edward the 6th. Is it Edward the 6th? I think it's Edward the 6th. We'll double check later. All right, anyway, now, unfortunately, though, Edward's going to die at the age of 15 due to tuberculosis. So he actually only ruled for about, not very long at all. Now, he actually had the law rewritten, though, to the fact where his sister, his eldest sister, Mary, took over the throne. Now, Mary Tudor, of course, remember, she grew up. She resented her father heavily. And she actually wants to take the, entirety of England back to Catholicism, right? Now, she's the one you've heard of before known as Bloody Mary. Now, the reason why she's called Bloody Mary is because she supervised and oversaw a very Spanish Inquisition-like thing in England where they had over 300 Protestants put to death by burning at the stake. Now, her thing was she wanted to purge England of all Protestant faith. Unfortunately, though, she is going to die before this can be achieved, and her sister is going to take over, and her sister was from the marriage of Anne Boleyn and Henry, so she is a Protestant. Ding, 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 ding. Good job, Natalie Berry. She's a Protestant, and she became queen, and her biggest attribute to all of economics and most of government theory is she was the first to take the church and the state, and she split them apart. Her big thing, she said, was, I don't care what you are, pay your taxes. All right? So she is actually effectively going to split the 2 apart from each other and lead to a more stable England. She was heavily loved by her people, and as you can see, a couple little weird fun facts about her, is she actually did go somewhat insane in her later life, because notice one of the standout features is her fair face, right? So she used to put on heavy amounts of makeup, white makeup. It was lead-based, so she was actually inhaling lead fumes, for most of her life, destroyed a lot of brain cells, caused some blood poisoning in later life, threw her a little off. Other cool thing, she never got married. Actually, her sister, Bloody Mary, married Philip II of Spain, who we'll be talking about in the next unit. Now, she didn't have a happy relationship, though, because she loved Philip, but Philip didn't like her because Philip was 10 years younger than her, and he was cheating on her all the time with a bunch of random women. They didn't even sleep in the same country. Not the same bed, same country. He lived in Spain, so he stayed there, and then she lived in England, so she stayed there. But effectively, he became the king of England and ruled from Spain. So... and then he's going to try and marry Elizabeth after Mary dies. But we'll get into that later. All right? Spanish Armada. So remember, Elizabeth is a Protestant, split the church and state apart. Now, moving on, though. After the Reformation hits England, the Catholic Church realizes that maybe they've been messing up this whole time. They realize that the claiming of papal supremacy and papal authority and the corruption within the church had reached an all-time high. And so they decided, we are going to reform the Catholic Church, right? So it's called the Counter-Reformation. It's when the Catholic Church actually looked inward and said, we need to fix our practices to make us more advertisable to the people of Europe. Because you just lost a heavy amount of, is partitioners the right word? Practitioners? All right, I don't know. They lost a heavy amount of their, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a group of people that go to church. I swear it starts with a P. Whoever tells me first tomorrow, extra credit. Anyway, now, but they lost a lot of attendees due to the fact that the Holy Roman Empire is now battling Lutherans, right? So after Martin Luther, France is battling Calvinists. In England now you got all kinds of Protestants. You got Anglicans, Puritans, and all these other people popping up. So it's a heavy amount of issues, and they realize if we don't fix ourselves, we become less advertisable to the poor and less advertisable to people. So we need to inwardly fix ourselves. And this is not the first time it's happened. Vatican II was a major reform that actually happened more recently of the Catholic Church, right? Now, at the Council of Trent, write that down, circle it like 8 times, very important. There was a large group of people that came together to fix Catholicism. Now, they decided on the following 4 things, right? Number 1, regulate priest training. We can't have people running all over the place saying we're selling these types of indulgences. Shout out Johann Tetzel. You can't be selling different types of indulgences and causing a dissension among the poor in the population. It leads to revolt. It leads to reform. It leads to new types of Christianity. That affects their attendance, right? Now, they also outlawed indulgences. They were like, all right, you're right. We're done with indulgences, so no more indulgences to be sold for profit. Women are going to be brought in to help educate people. They're going to be some of the first teachers, and they're going to actually expand scholasticism. Write that down. This is actually with them coming in to help educate people. Funny enough, this is like another earth-shattering thing. This effectively is going to lead to public education and like your early goings of women, a women-saturated market of educators, right? Now, also, though, the Inquisition was brought back, stronger and more powerful, because they felt as though, since we fixed these things, don't act out or else this is going to be a big issue for you. So, it was used to fight Protestantism, and there's going to be, what I want you to do underneath it, right, the Spanish Inquisition. We're going to talk about that in the next couple of days. The Spanish Inquisition actually was brought back in full force in Spain, backed by the Pope and backed by Isabella and Ferdinand. Theirs was insane. I'll show you a bunch of torture devices and stuff like that. Really, really cool. Anyway, so, not for the people that were involved, but still, you understand what I'm saying. Now, this is another cool society that was brought about, the Jesuits, right? Now, a lot of you have heard of the Jesuits before. Our current Pope is a Jesuit. Now, the Jesuit was originally started, though, as a military organization, started by St. Ignatius of Loyola. Anybody ever heard of Loyola University in Maryland? They had a really good lacrosse game, actually, this past weekend against Johns Hopkins. Y'all should go back and watch it. Now, anyway, but it was founded by St. Ignatius of Loyola. It was a military organization that emphasized obedience to the church above all, and they were the ones that actually brought people in to go in front of the Inquisition for violating Catholic law. So, very, very cool society that was started. Nowadays, they're a new branch of Catholicism. Very, very cool practices. We have several Jesuit universities and high schools out there. St. Joe's Prep over in Philly is a Jesuit high school. Their university is Jesuit. Jesuit University is Jesuit. Very, very cool stuff. Oh, Loyola of Maryland is Jesuit. So, very, very neat. You should look up at some of their practices. Now, the main thing you need to write down, though, is the religious and social effects the Reformation is going to put into Europe that's going to cause cataclysmic events leading through the late 1500s into the 1600s and leading into this thing called the era of absolutism, right? So, put religious effects leads to absolutism. Now, first of all, Christianity is going to spread at great lengths. It's going to make its way all the way out to the borders of Russia, into Latvia, or current-day Latvia. It's going to make its way all the way into the Baltics, and it's going to grow at an exponential rate because, ironically enough, the fact that the Catholics wanted to reform their church actually led to the fact these new Protestant faiths appealed more to certain types of people, so Christianity actually spread at a mass rate. Now, unfortunately, due to the Inquisition and due to the practices of some of the other countries that are going to come around, people began to try and purge out Jews and Muslims, so they were seen as criminals, right? Jews are going to be moved to ghettos in some places, and their synagogues are going to be burnt down, especially in Spain under the Spanish Inquisition. Also, witchcraft became a huge issue. There were all these witch trials in Europe where they were literally chasing after women and being accused of witches. Now, typically these were single women that didn't have a husband, and they were oftentimes accused of adultery and things like that. So women's rights are going to go plummet down. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, all right? We're going to expand on all this stuff tomorrow. Also, though, the biggest and most important thing is political power became separate from the church. Last thing, write this down. Religious warfare. Lots of religious wars are going to pop up. The 30 Years' War, the 10 Years' War, the Catholics versus the Huguenots in France, the Catholics versus the Lutherans in the 30 Years' War, the friggin' Anglicans versus the Puritans during the England. Like, those are two Protestants that fought each other. Lots of religious warfare leads to a lot of death and also leaves more room for absolutists to take control. We'll talk about that stuff more further, like in more depth tomorrow. I'm going to give you some like reading samples and stuff like that. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get to it. Very, very neat things to study, though. So, that's all we have for this evening, Canon Catholic. I'll see y'all tomorrow, honors.